Welcome back to the Wildly Capable Show. Today's episode is going to be sharing our thought process on the current events and more specifically, how we're dealing with it as a family with younger kids, older kids, how we're talking to our kids about it. It's not us sharing our opinion on what happened or the many things that have happened. We're not going to get political in this conversation, but as we just dropped an episode 2 or 3 weeks ago about how to talk to your kids about these harder topics, and then the world falls apart in 1 week, now we're like, okay, let's apply some of this. Like, we are in real time having to discover the quote wildly capable approach to national tragedy, to things being shown on the internet, to talking normal family gatherings and people saying, so what do you think about that assassination? Like around your kids, right? So we're thrust into now this very serious conversation and there's no avoiding it. So Joey and I thought for this week we would have a very candid chat about,
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing.
We are not coming into this conversation cold. I'm only saying that because many times we do, in a sense, right? We'll have a structure of what we're going to talk about, and we do for this as well. But we have been talking about this for a little while, and chewing on the idea of like, should we take it to the podcast? And then ultimately we thought, this is what it's all about. Okay, so being a wildly capable family, you're going to deal with things that are hard, that you don't want to deal with, that you'd rather just put off. And I just don't think that's wise.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think we'll see more of these. We even talked about the idea of, as we deal with challenging encounters, situations, life events, etc., to an extent, bringing many of those things onto the show and almost using them as a case study for other people to learn from.
As we are learning how to navigate as
exactly.
well. Yeah, just
exactly.
Like open conversation here.
So we've been talking about, there's been a number of different horrific events in the news recently. There always is something, right? But it really, for us, shook things up when the assassination of Charlie Kirk was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how you see it, it's a big deal. And the reason we want to talk about it is that you can all day long feel the way you feel, but when you're a parent, you're in a leadership position and you have to step in and lead your kids, to protect them, to coach them, to talk them through this thing, and to set them up for success in the midst of things like this. And when you're an adult and you're a leader and it can feel lonely, right? Because you're like, no one's doing that for me, or you're right, like, maybe you need to go talk to somebody. Maybe you need to find somebody you can kind of be in community with. But the responsibility that you have as a parent, I believe, is to dive into this with your kids and take them to a safe place to chew on this, rather than allowing them to experience life and people's narratives and their agendas. And anyhow, I want to go into starting with a contrast that I've seen in my life as we've been talking about this. And I've compared it to a number of different occasions in the world. And when I was a kid and something like this happened, and I'm not saying it's the same, I'm just saying it was a big deal and it was big news and it has changed our world in some way forever. And that was 9/11. So I was younger when 9/11 occurred. And I was not on social media. There was no narratives happening. I saw it on the news, right? The planes hitting the towers. And then my parents kind of explained it to me to an extent. I knew we were like going to war, but I was younger and it wasn't the same as it is now. Okay. You could be 14, 15 and experience 9/11. And not that it goes away, but the way I'm watching this unfold online is totally different. Okay. I remember how horrifying it was later on when I would like see video footage of people jumping out of the towers.
Yeah. Because you then understood like, oh wow, that's what was happening. Yeah.
But that's not the same. Like that is like tame compared to what you're seeing on the internet now, with the train murder, with Charlie Kirk, with like school shooting. It's insane. Okay. And it can invoke fear and sadness, and it's crazy. And so when we think about what can happen when an event like this occurs today, there's a benefit to the fact that information is so readily available. But then there's the negative to where there's so many people that are posting online with an agenda-based message, and it's all based around like something like this that's so sticky, it's so emotional and so spiritually kind of driven, and it's there's a political component, a spiritual component, an emotional component, a us versus them and component. There's so many things going on there, and there's so many narratives, and so many of them I think can be harmful. I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm just saying that is the challenge that we're dealing with. And I do believe it's not always been this way, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's always been this way. I don't think this conversation is something, this idea that, hey, parents have to step in and really go through this information with their kids and really help protect them and also set them up to deal with all the narratives and things they're going to see and hear. Whether it used to be just like, well, Uncle Jim is crazy, right? He's going to talk about this. But now it's like influencers that you love, that you've gotten to know, that you follow, that you believe in, right? What do they say? We don't know what they're like. Just because you love the way that they bake a cookie doesn't necessarily mean that their political views are refined in a way that there's so much that can happen. The get ready with me videos where I'm going to put makeup on, if they post something about what's going on in the media, like how much influence and impact is that going to have on your kids? So I say all that because we took some steps, and I want to hand it over to you. Otherwise, I'm just going to ramble on and on and on. But we took some steps when this happened in our family pretty quickly.
Yeah, we decided that night, I think, after I had just saw what happened, we kind of shut our phones off. And that night, I believe it was Wednesday, I specifically told Sophia, I said, hey, going into tomorrow, we are going to stay off of any sort of like social media feeding platform. So
anything with an algorithm.
No Pinterest, no YouTube.
It was all off limits.
Like, not, you can't even watch it on the TV. There's nothing. You can watch a regular like Disney Plus show on the television or text your friends on the iPad, but we're not going to be diving into these algorithm fed platforms. And I said, because there is very, very
painful, graphic, unfiltered.
Yeah, unfiltered is the word I was looking for. Unfiltered video footage of people dying. Okay, multiple people, mainly Charlie's the shot that killed Charlie, and the before and after footage is readily available of the girl on the train. So both of these things are circulating. And I saw both of them, and I wasn't searching for them. They popped up.
Yep.
And I wasn't asking to see them. I don't ever follow any of that kind of thing. And they're flooding.
Virality.
They're flooding the internet. And so even everyone knows. So that was the very first thing. And then Joey and I also, we just decided like, hey, we're getting off social media. Like I'm signing off for 5 days. I'm not getting back on. I have nothing to post right now. There's nothing to share. Like everything just needs to go dark for a little bit until we can just even pause a moment and wrap my head around what's going on. So one, my main concern was I don't want her seeing the video of people getting killed. You can't unsee that. Okay. I don't want them seeing that. And two, to your point, I don't want her opinion about what is happening to be shaped by people that I don't know. I don't know their heart. I don't know their belief system. I can't vouch for them. And you know what? It is funny because like their ability to bake a cookie doesn't mean anything, but there's this aura around your favorite influencer.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And you don't know the impact that has until something like this happens. And then you start looking to them for their reasoning, their opinion on it.
Exactly.
And that can be so dangerous.
And that's what that kind of my point before. If 9/11 had happened and I had the access that our kids have today, I just wonder how I would have known that differently. And I'm not saying I want that or I wish that or anything like that. I'm just saying it's crazy to think about the time that we live in, and the central square, right, of information is so readily available, and it's amazing. It's great. But also there is so much going on there that if you're not mature enough in your beliefs, and children aren't, okay? So many people might hear this and be like, oh, well, you're sheltering your kids. We had the talk even before we hit record, that this idea of sheltering, it's so funny when you think about it. Shelter having a negative connotation, but it's like, yeah, I'm sheltering my kids from anything that has an agenda that's not in accordance with ours and what our family vision is, right? So our spiritual beliefs and drive, our family values, what we want for our kids for them to be successful. There's people out there with an agenda that they don't care about your kids. They have an agenda, and your kids can be a part of that agenda, but it doesn't necessarily help your kids out or you. And you know what? As an adult, you can see that oftentimes. Oftentimes, as an adult, when you encounter somebody speaking that has some form of an agenda, if it aligns with yours in some capacity, you may enjoy that. If it doesn't, you might not enjoy it. But as a kid, you might not even know that there is an agenda. You're just taking it as information. The other day, Sophie came to us and said that there's, ice cream trucks that are kidnapping people.
Yeah.
I saw information about it. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I feel like that would be the news if that was real. I looked it up. I was like, Sophie, it's not real. And she's like, oh, well, so-and-so said that it was happening. I'm like, okay, but I'm just telling you that's when it kind of clicked for me.
It's a great example.
Right. So anyways, next thing, we believe that protecting your kids is a big deal. Right. So we are not going to have there be a ban on social platforms forever. But we did believe that, one, we wanted to halt any possible information to get through our defenses before we had even articulated what was going on and how to communicate it to our kids. So it was like, let's just pause that and then we can talk about it. Okay. Additionally, we didn't want there to be a like scarring traumatic thing, right? So we wanted there to be like, eventually there's going to be some filtration that occurs that if there is something seen, it'll be blurred or it'll be deafened so that it's not what it once was. Because I know that I can't control that forever either, right? And my guess is that if your kids go searching for something like this, they will probably find it. I'm not saying that the internet is pure and good and that it's going to all come back to being daisies. I'm just saying that the amount of like the flood of this really traumatic video, it was insane. It was everywhere. It was on YouTube. It was on Instagram. I'm guessing it was on all over TikTok. I'm guessing it was on, I don't have
Twitter.
TikTok. I'm guessing, Twitter, I'm sure, or X, I'm sure it was all over. And so I wanted that initial spike and wave to kind of calm down a little bit.
One of the things I love about having a true arsenal of organ-based supplements in my house is that if we come across an injury or illness, we have everything we need to fully support our body in that. So here's an example. You guys know Joey loves to run. He's currently training for a big race and is experiencing some pain. Okay. He is taking so much collagen right now in preparation for his big run. He's also, of course, he's taken a couple days off, but he is taking so much living collagen by Ancestral Supplements right now because he understands that that is exactly what his body needs to repair. I love Ancestral because they have a line of supplements for like every system of the body. So if you're looking for bone health, blood health, hormonal health, if you're looking for gut health and you're going to go for digestive enzymes and colostrum, if you're looking for a clean protein powder that doesn't have whey or dairy or gluten or soy or any of that, Ancestral Supplements has what you need. Go over to ancestralsupplements.com/homegrown and you can see specifically what we have in our house all the time, our favorite supplements. My little pictures right there, and those are the products that I hand select and put in my little page for you so that you know exactly what I'm referencing when I'm talking to you about this. They have a 60-day money-back guarantee, which is wonderful because sometimes when you're taking supplements, you have to figure out what's working best for you. If you don't feel like something is supporting your body the way you want it to, send it back. You'll get your money back. So you can use the code HOMEGROWN at checkout for 15% off and stock up on supplementations to support every system of your body. Hazelmeyer Goods is doing a last chance sale. We have a few items that we still have limited supply of, limited quantity of, and this is your absolute last chance to get your hands on these items before they go in the vault. Okay. So we are doing a last chance sale. We are selling out of these items. They will not be back. Things like our beloved bread box, which I use every day. We custom designed and had these things built right here in Ohio because I needed something that was big enough to carry like a full sourdough loaf, like a homemade sourdough loaf, and all of the standard bread boxes were too small. So we made it wider. We gave it a removable cutting board up top. We wanted it to have just enough airflow so that the door wasn't sealed too tight. We spent so much time designing a bread box, and we only have a few left. So we're running a sale. We have a couple other items in our shop that it is your last chance to grab them. Go over to shoptheh.com. You're going to see a banner at the top of the website that says last chance sale, and go click on that page. You can see everything we have, super discounted, amazing, amazing product that we love. We just have very limited inventory of it left. And so we want to just bless y'all, give you one last chance to purchase it, and go check it out. Go over to shoptheh.com and check that out now.
So protection, that was the kind of number one thing that went through our head. One, let's just protect our kids. And that's very normal, right? As parents, you want to protect your kids, but you also want to prepare them. So how do you prepare your kids? And so that was like the next thing that we've gotten into, and we're still doing it, by the way. So in the midst of recording this, we have not, quote unquote, prepared our kids and they're good to go. One of the ways that we've decided to prepare our kids is to, in accordance with their maturity and their age, our 5-year-old is not going to have this conversation with us. We're not going to sit her down and tell her about somebody that was out speaking that got shot. We're not going to do that. We will teach her about gun safety and how it can hurt people, but I might not sit her down and have a very intense conversation about what's going on in our world today. And that's just my 5-year-old. Your 5-year-old might be different, but I know that mine is not currently ready for that conversation, just because the reasoning I have is she's going to be an unfiltered little 5-year-old monster that's going to go talk about it with all kinds of people. Like, hey, if we're out in public, we might get shot. Like,
yeah, she might ask insensitive questions.
She'll because she's pure innocence, right? So she's going to say socially unacceptable things in social settings. And so to prevent that, for her own sake, because she's not ready to articulate it properly, we won't explain this one to her in full detail. If she were to ask us a question, we will give her a response that is, appropriate for her age and maturity. Okay, and I'm going way too deep into this, but I just wanted to say that of like, how are you going to speak to all of your kids? I'm just trying to anticipate the DMs I'm going to receive about how I'm speaking to my kids about this. So we have a 9-year-old. She's going to hear this. She's going to hear what happened, that it's a serious thing and that it's an emotional thing for many people, and that it's not something that we take super lightly. I'm also going to tell her that she is safe with us. I'm going to tell her that I don't believe that we live in a world where she's going to walk around and get, attacked. But, we also, it's a broken world. So there are bad things that happen, and, this is what it is. So I'm going to have that conversation with her. Much more detailed than this, trying not to obliterate this podcast by going on the rambling kind of onslaught that I will when I'm sitting with my children. And it will be a family meeting that I have with them that's very intentional. So then our 14-year-old, it's going to be, and has been already, a conversation, and it will continue. And she's going to be somebody that we bring into it more deeply, and we learn and grow and digest and process this stuff together. And it's going to be a safe place. I want her to ask me questions. I don't want it to die off. I don't want to tell her about it and then we don't talk about it anymore. I don't want that. I want there to be explain what happened, why it's terrible, and what's being left behind, and what we believe. We'll go into the weeds of our political views on this with her, and what we feel like our place is in this world, and what we should be doing, how we should be responding to it. And then we will be, if we learn something new and we need to adjust our view because of new information or a new understanding or a new brainstorm, we'll come to her and we'll explain that and talk to her about it and process it together. And it will be ongoing. And I hope it's weeks or months or years long that we're kind of discussing this topic with her about this specific incident. And so that's the preparation that we see, very in accordance to their age, and less about a like speech that we write up or a like note cards. It's not about that. It's about growing and learning and maturing within this challenging topic together.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the best ways for me personally to prepare myself talking to my kids is to make sure that I am not feeding into that online discourse too early. There are so many like initial conspiracies or theories
Yeah.
or whatever you can get sucked into, and it's sure it's interesting. Sure, you want to learn. Sure, as soon as you hear it happens, you're like, I need more information. I mean, I did that for probably about 2 hours on Wednesday, and then I was like, you know what? I got to stop.
Yeah.
And I didn't miss out on anything being offline for the last 5 days. I thought about it every day. This is not me ignoring it. I am merely protecting my heart and my soul so that when I go to talk to my kids about it, I am not one flooded with other people's opinions. I want
Yeah.
my own opinion, but also like I will very carefully get information so that we can deliver an accurate message.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't need to know the initial reactions of people. And so just it depends on where you are. I know for me, I'm so sensitive to anything I see in the media. I
Mm-hmm.
just have always been that way. I can hear a story about something that happened and it will haunt me to this day. And so I just have to be really careful. And I think sitting there with the news on or your phone in your pocket buzzing, it's going to be hard for you to have a really level-headed conversation unless you are, just a Navy SEAL when it comes to conversation, because I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to keep it very quiet for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is that's been helpful.
So the protect and prepare, and we believe those two kind of factors, and I like saying them that way because I want to keep it broad enough so that when you know your kids and how to support them in those two ways best, and different ages, different maturity levels. Like our 14-year-old is incredibly mature, very capable of digesting and dealing with this sort of topic. Our 14-year-old is probably the equivalent of some 16, 17-year-olds that I've met in my life, which is, again, not a knock on anyone, but just, my 5-year-old is not, right. So it's just how kids develop. But those two things I think will get you to where you need to go, and just keeping it in mind as a guiding principle of how you should approach this topic. So, hey, protect them first and foremost from what they shouldn't be seeing
Mm-hmm.
for their maturity level. And quite frankly, some of the stuff that I've seen so far would have loved if somebody would have stepped in and protected me from it. So I'm not saying that there's an age, in my opinion, or a maturity level where some of the stuff is like, oh no, it's good. I think it's easy even for us to get kind of little nicks and chinks in our armor and our emotional kind of health when we're surfing the webs. So yeah, it's a crazy place. You can look at this conversation. You can look at this time spent with your kids as, protecting them. You can look at it as a time to ward off narratives coming from, I'm going to call them like enemy sources. And that's not enemy. It's definitely not enemy of right or left. I'm saying enemy from like a spiritual perspective, something that's trying to take you down any means necessary. Okay. I'm looking at this like if Satan himself was trying to feed narratives to your children, what would those look like?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, this is a, a season where that might be more prevalent. Right. And, we're trying to ward those things off. We're also trying to create a foundation of our narrative. So it's not just protection. It's not just, like trying to steer our kids in a new direction. It's also building a foundation so that when they encounter stuff like we just did, they have more resilience to handle it. I don't want my kids to be in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, have something like this happen, because you know what? It's something like this is going to happen again. I hope I never see it again. I hope I don't. But I think it's a good chance that we will. And I want my kids to have even more resilience than I have to deal with something like this. I want them to be more spiritually grounded. I want them to have more logical understanding. I want them to have even better uh, uh, foundation and awareness of who they are and why they're important. That's what I want. I want them to be able to seek out resources that can keep them safe and educated and healthy more regularly, right? Not just food, but also, man, maybe I need to dive into scripture as a result of this. Hey, you know what? Maybe I need to uh, do what you and I did, which is, wow, as soon as I saw what happened, I disengaged from all social media for 3 to 4 days, and I didn't miss it at all. I didn't have any, and you know how I did it, just tactically, so people know, like, oh, how'd you do that? I took my apps that I would use to surf any kind of social media function at all, which for me, it's YouTube and Instagram. I don't use anything else. And I guess I use LinkedIn, but that one I didn't feel so much fear about. But anyways, I moved the apps into random new folders that were hidden within my phone screen so that when I would scroll to try to find those things instinctually, they wouldn't be there. And it would remind me, oh yeah, we're not doing that.
Mm-hmm. I did the same thing
And
after you told me.
it was really powerful. It really worked. It was very effective. So I might just leave them in those, and then I have to like hunt for them more, and it'll probably just be a good deterrent. Anyhow, that's what I did. So that's what we're working on. That's where we've gotten to thus far, and we're going to continue digesting and processing this with our kids. But did you have anything else on this one?
No, I like that we're leaving it on kind of building your own narrative. And what we mean by that is like giving them information, but also like I think it's appropriate and honestly necessary for parents to share with their kids like how they're actually processing
Yeah.
this. Like I don't just want an emotionless radio talking to me if I'm a kid telling me this information. I want to hear what my mom and dad had to say about it. And I'm not going to use this in any way. I'm not going to weaponize it
Mm-mm.
to prove a point that I
No.
have. I think that is a very slippery slope. But I do like the encouragement you're giving to kind of maybe talk with your spouse a little bit and be like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this one is really politically charged.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to talk about this? Like, we both know where we kind of stand. How do we make sure that the other political party doesn't look like the enemy here?
Sure. It's a
How
great.
do we make sure that every person that we know that is in that party doesn't now appear like a threat to our kids?
Yep.
How do we make sure that we're not feeding into this conversation and that we're just telling them our own narrative of it? So,
This is an opportunity.
yeah.
So the way that I want to close this episode out is with a challenge. So parents of adults, parents of young kids, parents of old kids, leaders, people that have these folks within their family, this is an opportunity for us to build into the next generation in a way that is more powerful than we were before, more caring, more capable, and more resilient. This is an opportunity. So it's a terrible a number of events that are just absolutely terrible, but it's an opportunity to sit down with your kids and shape the next generation in a powerful and positive way. Wildly Capable is all about running into the storm and saying, hey, you know what? This is crazy. But as a result of that, this is an opportunity to grow.
Mm.
And that's what we're in right now. We're in it. So we are in the soil is fertile, right? It's an opportunity to grow. It's time to go out there and take this, seize the day, sit down with our kids, build the plan, sit with your spouse, chew on these hard, difficult conversations, talk about your kids' maturity, talk about what they're capable of hearing and understanding, talk about what you understand about this. If you haven't done that already, start there. Process, internalize, and then formulate a plan, call that family meeting, make it formal. It's a big deal. It is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Call that family meeting, sit with your kids, sit with your spouse, sit with your family, bring somebody else in if you need to, sit with your kids, and man, have a really mature conversation. Have a really mature conversation. That's all I got. Amazing. Go get them.